morning. That, I didn't know the name of that, but it was perfect and just beautiful. Beautiful and a little scary too. Our call to worship this morning comes from Andrea Hawkins Camper. She calls it United by Story and Bound by Love. She writes, "Gather we now into this space, this time when the wheel turns and the veil shatters. Gather we now to remember, to grieve, to prophesy, to complete our harvests before the long dark comes. Gather we now to tell the old stories and sing the old songs, to be as we have always been, the voice of the people eternal. Gather we now to celebrate that which was, that which is, and that which will be. Gather we now as we have always done, united by story and bound by love." Our opening hymn this morning is number 73, Chant for the Seasons. We're only going to do the first verse.
Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us. Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us. Sweet the angling sun, sweet upon the air, the smell of blue mist rising. Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us. Glorious the trees, glorious the sight of rust leaves falling, falling. Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon again. Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us. Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us. Sweet the angling sun, sweet upon the air, the smell of blue mist rising. Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us. Glorious the trees, glorious the sight of rust leaves falling, falling. Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us.
Well, that hymn does not give you a chance to breathe. We light our chalice this morning with words from Florence Caplow. As we kindle this flame, we honor and remember those who have passed into the mystery. Their brightness lives on in our vision. Their courage lives on in our commitments. And their love continues to bless the world through us.
Welcome. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Lancaster, or UUCL as we say. We're glad you're here this morning. I am Marian Joyce, today's worship associate and a 35-year member of this congregation. Today our service is being led by JD Stillwater. He's also from a worship associate from the Harrisburg UU Church. And when Reverend Howard gets a break from the pulpit, frequently JD will be joining us. Here at UUCL, we come together to nourish the spirit, connect in love, and act for justice. We welcome you this morning just as you are. You are seated in this sanctuary with some who grew up UU, while most of us are from other faith traditions. Today, may you feel a connection to this diverse spiritual community. And if this is your first time here, check us out a few times. Every Sunday is a little different, as our ministers choose from many sources of wisdom as depicted in the mobile overhead or the mural outside. And now this morning, JD has chosen 2 short readings for us. The first one is called Feeding the Worms by Danusha Lamaris. Ever since I found out that earthworms have taste buds all over the delicate pink strings of their bodies, I pause dropping apple peels into the compost bin. I imagine the dark, writhing ecstasy, the sweetness of apples permeating their pores. I offer beets and parsley, avocado and melon, the feathery tops of carrots. I'd always thought theirs a menial life, eyeless, hidden, almost vulgar, though now it seems they bear a pleasure so sublime, so decadent, I want to contribute however I can, forgetting a moment my place on the menu. I like that one. The second reading is Red number 175, Red the Color, by Alice Walker. To acknowledge our ancestors means we are aware that we did not make ourselves, that the line stretches all the way back, perhaps to God or to gods. We remember them because it is an easy thing to forget that we are not the first to suffer, to rebel, fight, love, and die. The grace with which we embrace life, in spite of the pain, the sorrows, is always a measure of what has gone before.
Thank you, Marian. When my mom's mother was about 16, she was awarded a full-ride scholarship to Cornell University. She didn't go. She wanted to go, but her stepmother, who came from a blue-collar German immigrant family, said, "If she goes to college, I get a maid." And that was it. End of discussion. So my brilliant grandmother went to work as a secretary. Nothing against secretaries, but she had greater potential, I think. And there are plenty of other uncomfortable stories about my recent ancestors and their sometimes backwards worldviews. And I'll share a few of them in upcoming services. 2 generations after Grandma got shut down, I went to Cornell, but I left again in my junior year. I was disillusioned with the world that recent generations had bestowed on me and my peers, especially the looming threat of 50,000 nuclear weapons on hair trigger. So I left Cornell to walk from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. on the Great Peace March for global nuclear disarmament, a move which my father's father disagreed with. As a young adult, I was pretty disinterested in the preferences and stories of ancestors like him. Even now, I'm much more interested in how we could make things better. So I've had this worldview of constant progress, where each generation strives to make the world better for the next generation, right? More security, more access to tools and wealth, more rights and inclusion, infinite economic growth, onward and upward, right? And for much of my adulthood, I kind of dismissed my ancestors as not worth much time or effort, because to me they represented in a way, the ignorant past. And ironically, I have some amazingly progressive ancestors. People ask me, what does JD stand for? Well, my birth name was John Dewey. And yes, I am related to the great educator and democracy advocate, John Dewey. And it's ironic because less than a decade after changing my last name to Stillwater, I became an educator myself and got enamored with democratic education in particular. Well, this is a time of year when many cultures honor ancestors. In the last few fall seasons, I've been revisiting how I think about these relationships. And Halloween is a kind of shallow and commercialized shadow of its own ancestor, the pagan holiday of Samhain. And yeah, whoever chose the letters we use to represent Celtic phonetics, I think deserves a Darwin Award for linguistic obfuscation. I just don't see how those letters could possibly spell Samhain, but they do. One of my favorite Celtic vocalists is Moira Brennan, spelled like this. Anyhow, Samhain was how my pre-Christian European ancestors honored their ancestors. And Samhain literally means summer's end, but it was also New Year's Eve on their calendar. And incidentally, unlike our New Year, which has no relation to anything astronomical, Samhain is exactly halfway between the fall equinox and the winter solstice. It's part of what modern pagans call the Wheel of the Year. And that wheel includes some other holidays Christians co-opted, as you can see. And you'll see this again when I'm here in December. So Samhain was the night between the years, between 2 years. Pre-Christian European pagan worldviews share some similarities with indigenous worldviews from all over the planet. Close integration with seasonal and astronomical cycles, kinship with all life, and honoring of ancestors. I've started to think of such cultures, indigenous cultures, as steady-state cultures because their worldview centered kinship and connection and cycles rather than a one-way focus on progress. My modern American culture says, have what you want, always extracting and consuming Earth's resources to meet our drive for more, more, more. Steady-state worldviews emphasize, want what you have. What we have is enough, they say. Life is good. I didn't learn about the pagan roots of holidays until I was an adult, but Halloween was really big in my childhood. My family went all out. My dad had this Army surplus parachute from World War II, or maybe Korea, that he would string up like a huge spider web. And we would open up our garage door with orange lights and hot spiced cider, jack-o'-lanterns, and this endless cassette tape loop of spooky sound effects. And then we had games like bobbing for apples and stuff like that. And of course, costumes. This is me, age 9, sweating far more than I expected while totally encased in aluminum foil. I'm supposed to be a robot. Now we actually have robots. And when the neighbors came to our house on Halloween, we would fry them a fresh donut right in our garage, and they could roll it still hot and still covered with the oil in a pan of confectioner's sugar or cinnamon sugar. You can see the raw donuts and the pans of sugar behind me in the picture. I wish I had more pictures from those Halloweens. And I think some of this to-do was my parents compensating for not giving out candy. My parents were into health food, vitamins, homemade whole wheat bread, whole grain donuts, if you can imagine. So, candy didn't really fit with the lifestyle. But our house was the go-to place for neighborhood kids and their parents on Halloween, because it was really fun. Me and my siblings did go trick-or-treating ourselves. You can see my candy bag in the photo. But consuming our treasures was pretty carefully regulated, with my Halloween candy often lasting until Easter, and not because of my own self-control. Because Samhain marks the night between one year and the next, pagans believe that the veil between this world and the world of the dead is thinner during that night. So messages and well wishes can easily pass through, or at least more easily. And that aspect remains the core of Dia de los Muertos celebrations in Mexico and in the United States. And if you've seen the Disney movie Coco, you have a sense of the basics of that holiday. I understand Disney did a pretty good job in representing that tradition. And in this Mexican tradition, the souls of the deceased remain nearby on the other side of the veil, but only as long as someone here on earth remembers them. Dia de los Muertos is the one day each year when we remember them in earnest, deliberately, thereby ensuring another year of their existence just on the other side of the veil. But rather than either frightening or solemn, Dia de los Muertos is a laughter-filled celebration. And I think this reflects a deep cultural difference in how we think about death. Someone said to me, Americans are the only people on earth who think they won't die. And I think there's some truth in that. Most of us avoid even talking about death if we can, right? Oh man, stop being so morbid. In turn, I think that reflects a deep cultural disconnection from the natural world. Death is normal and natural. My friend, the Reverend Barbara Whitaker Johns, reminds us that the opposite of death isn't life. The opposite of death is birth. Life includes both birth and death. Life couldn't exist without both of those. If you want to conquer death, if you want to be saved from death, understand that in this world, that would mean doing away with birth too, and life would cease to exist. Every birth preordains that this precious new child will surely die. But we never say birth is morbid. Modern genetics offers a whole new lens for remembering and celebrating our ancestors. Even without genetics, you can see that you have 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, and so on, doubling as you go back through each generation of your genetic ancestors. And obviously, it doesn't take many generations to exceed the entire population of the earth. We could represent that graphically like this, what I call your cone of ancestry. And we don't have to go back very far to realize that your cone of ancestry and mine have to overlap, as in we must have a common ancestor, a great-great-grandparent that we both descend from. That makes us cousins. And every ancestor in that big overlapping triangle in the middle is an ancestor to both of us. There are lots of them. This statistical approach suggests that almost all humans alive today probably have a common ancestor only a few thousand years back, at most. A 2004 paper in the journal Nature showed that statistically, even taking into account the geographic and sociological barriers to random mating, the cones of ancestry for everyone on Earth overlap as recently as about 2,000 years ago. Only 2,000. So your ancestors and mine are the same people, just a few tens of generations back. We are closer cousins than we thought. Genetic analyses give similar results, but because they tend to be based on a single sequence of DNA rather than the whole genome, genetic estimates of common ancestors are always much further back in time than statistical models. So, for example, so-called Y chromosomal Adam is the most recent common ancestor of all the people that have Y chromosomes who are alive today. And Y Adam lived around 200,000 years ago, much further back than the 2,000 years of statistical methods. But that number disregards half of your ancestors because only about half of us have a Y chromosome. We have many ancestors whose presence only shows up in some small part of our DNA, if at all. The cool thing about common ancestors is that the reasoning doesn't stop at the most recent common ancestor. Y chromosomal Adam's parents are also common ancestors to all of us with Y chromosomes. As we go further and further back in our chain of ancestry, at some point we find that our ancestors are Homo, but not yet sapiens. But of course, it doesn't stop there either. The cone of ancestry continues all the way back to the first mammals. This is a most amazing fossil, just discovered in July 2023. It's hard to tell from the photograph, but the three-dimensional arrangement of these bones makes it clear that one of our mammal ancestors actually picked a fight with a dinosaur at least 5 times its size. Until this fossil, we kind of assumed that mammals in the Cretaceous just scurried from hiding place to hiding place while the reptiles reigned supreme. But not anymore. We have some seriously scrappy ancestors in our family tree. But of course, that mammal's chromosomes didn't come out of nowhere either. They got them from their parents, same as us. So we can continue tracing our ancestry all the way back through reptiles, fish, arthropods, and single cells to a single microscopic bacterial cell from billions of years ago. And that cell is known as Luca, the last universal common ancestor of all living things on Earth. There are lots of different ways of graphically showing our family tree, but our knowledge of the relationships comes from the same technology that allows criminologists to solve crimes by looking at DNA from distant human cousins. I'm told that in the Sufi worldview, and maybe some other Middle Eastern cultures, ancestors are not behind us in the past, but in front of us in the past, stretching out into the distance, because they literally went before us. We follow in their footsteps, which of course are in front of us, their lives stretching out before us. So we're seeing the backs of our parents, and beyond them, the backs of our grandparents, and so on, details blurring as the generations recede into the distance in the past. Our lives not so different from theirs. And to me, this is a really foreign way of thinking about it. I have to work hard to even visualize it. But I enjoy trying, because I was acculturated in a paradigm of progress, where we don't want to follow in our ancestors' footsteps. We want to be better and do better than they did. We want to leave them behind, right? Well, the Sufi way, to me, seems to express a more steady-state worldview. It intrinsically honors the fact that we are not all that different from our ancestors. We have similar challenges. We go through similar life stages. We have the same loves and fears and griefs that they did. We follow in their footsteps. Today, when sustainability is the word of the decade, a more humble, more steady-state worldview may be in order. What would it look like? What would it feel like to be content living as our ancestors did, wanting what we have? To follow in our ancient ancestors' footsteps and to be content with that. Well, that math we did earlier calls into question the definition of an ancestor, because some of those who went before us didn't have any genetic descendants. They were born and died without having children. So they are in no one's cone of ancestry today. And that group includes many gay people and infertile people, people who died in childhood, or who just never found a mate. But they participated in their times. So their memes, their ideas and contributions to history are also part of our makeup, especially our cultures and our technologies. So in that way, they are our ancestors too, in that while their genetics don't live on in our cells, their cultural and molecular contributions do. Why did I say molecular contributions? By the time you're 40 years old, about 125,000 pounds of matter have passed through your body and back out into Earth's cycles. So if you include all the air that's been inside your lungs and then right back out again, it's more like 500,000 pounds. Our bodies are made of the recycled parts of other bodies. And that's a kind of ancestry too, a molecular ancestry. I'm still of two minds when it comes to the notion of progress. I'm not ready to let go of the dream of beloved community, where minorities of all kinds are welcomed and loved for the beautiful rainbow diversity that they enrich all of us with. But progress has also traditionally meant ever cushier comforts and more complex technologies and all the environmental suicides that attend an extractive have what you want economy. Our current global worldview wants us to believe you're either growing or you're dying, right? Which is patently false. Our bodies go from age 20 to around 60 in a steady state period of high health and productivity, neither growing nor dying for decades. It's only after seeing my own children as adults that I can really see the threads of deep connection with my grandparents. They were so much like me. And my kids are so much like me. Even the things I wish I hadn't passed on to them, that I know my children struggle with, there they are. James Baldwin wrote, quote, "Children have never been very good at listening to their elders, but they have never failed to imitate them." End quote. And noticing this invites me to wonder about the ways I am like my parents and grandparents, and how that plays out in my cousins, the ones I know and more distant ones, like you, and cousins that I've never met. I've come to appreciate family ties for what they can tell me about myself. Most of my ancestors are dead. And there's this persistent urban legend that gets reincarnated every so often that says there are more people alive now than have ever died. Nope. Even with humanity's obscene overgrowth in population, it's 8 billion to about 108 billion. The dead outnumber us 13 to 1. Of course, that number depends on which of our deep ancestors we count as people, how far back you go. But whether you start at 50,000 years or 200,000 years, the number of dead Homo sapiens sapiens is still many times the living. If you add in our non-human animal ancestors, including fungi and plants and stuff, single-celled critters and so on, almost all of my ancestors are dead. Dying appears to be a pretty popular activity on this planet. Why are we so paranoid about becoming ancestors ourselves? And why is our culture so focused on our own comforts and achievements rather than setting our descendants up for success, or at this point, even for survival? In the words of my friend Victor, an indigenous rights activist and a medical doctor from the Yaqui Nation, he says, "How will future generations know that you loved them? How will future generations know that we loved them?" I think our fear of death and our unwillingness to face the reality of it, it drives our worldview of separation and exploitation that threatens the survival of our descendants. I don't want them to follow in the footsteps of a have-what-you-want worldview. There isn't enough planet for that. We are the generation that will decide how many of our descendants succumb to hurricanes, floods, wildfires, heat waves, droughts, famines, wars caused by dwindling resources, and mass migration out of regions made uninhabitable by our generation's waste of fossil fuels. The yellow places on this map are uninhabitable if we hit 4 degrees above pre-industrial temperatures. What does it mean to be a good ancestor in times like this? Is a worldview of progress inherently problematic? Can we separate cultural progress from economic growth and create a worldview that's steady state in our relations with Earth, but progressive in relation with other people? I'm not sure. But I'm increasingly suspicious that my dismissiveness of my ancestors, look at that, I'm gesturing like my ancestors like they're behind me. I'm suspicious that my dismissiveness as a young adult was a missed opportunity. My grandmother never did go to college. She was promoted fairly quickly from secretary to office manager, which is what she was doing when she met my grandfather. And I suppose if she had gone to Cornell, I would not exist. I did fulfill Grandma's dream when I finally earned my Cornell degree 11 years after I left for the Peace March. But she didn't live to see it. This Halloween season, Samhain, Dia de los Muertos, let's remember our ancestors and honor their lives because they were so like our own in so many ways. Let us revere the flow of matter that gives us life and makes us intimates with all our ancestors, contemporaries, and our descendants. Let us remember that we will die, following a long line of ancestors to do that successfully, if not always gracefully. Let us examine carefully the legacy we leave as ancestors, humbly accepting our very temporary ripple in the long river of time. May we have the courage of introspection necessary to ensure that future generations will know that we love them. And let us grapple with our own worldviews, finding the sweet both-and balance between a sustainable acceptance of what we have and constant progress towards the beloved community. May it be so.
JD is also known as the Science Ambassador. I forgot to mention that in his introduction. Thank you. I found this reflection really challenging, not because there wasn't enough to reflect on, instead, where to focus. I ended up 2 places: my own American experience as an immigrant, and a poem from the Soul Matters packet on heritage by George Ella Lyon called Where I'm From. You use this poem as a model and then create your own poem about your ancestry. But first, an invitation, a place to start here at UUCL if you've never thought much about connecting with ancestors, or if you have a certain ambivalence about reconnecting with family heritage, or maybe have some difficult ancestors. There's a Web and Wheel Earth-based spirituality group here, and on upcoming Saturdays, starting November 8th, I believe, you will be able to be part of something where connecting with ancestors is a large part of their focus. So my early experiences here in Lancaster led me to think Americans are obsessed about their ancestors. At least that was my reaction in June 1985 when I first moved here with my then husband Michael. He had grown up in New Holland, Pennsylvania, and was part of an extended Irish Catholic family. I had a much stronger Irish accent back then and found myself often in conversation with strangers that went like this. The other person, "Oh, you're Irish. I'm Irish too." Me, "Oh, where are you from?" No, I mean, my family came from Ireland originally. We're not sure where. Or they would share a story about visiting Ireland to track down relatives. So I would mirror their excitement at talking to somebody familiar with their ancient ancestral land. Fast forward to 2010, and I would finally learn how complex other people's ancestry can be in America at a YWCA anti-racism class led by Conrad Moore, who has preached at this church. One activity was to bring an item to share from your culture or family history. A young woman that I will call Claire broke into tears because she had nothing to share from either her Irish or her German heritage. The family didn't or wouldn't talk about it. She felt disconnected. The following week, I gifted her a Tara brooch and a scarf with some Celtic designs from my closet, so she would at least have something Irish. Conrad, our instructor, shared that he was unusual in that he could trace his history back to his family's arrival on a slave ship. Many African Americans could not trace ancestry back that far due to forced separation or sale during slavery. But now, thanks to DNA testing, he knew where his people originated. As somebody from a country that sometimes has too much history, back to Newgrange Passage Tomb, which is older than Stonehenge or the Great Pyramids, this disconnection was something unusual for me. But that was then, when many of us UUs were reading an Indigenous Peoples History of the US, or White Fragility. We had workshops on how to talk about race. How many people here participated in regular Black Lives Matter protests outside the church with handmade signs? Just curious. Yeah. How things have changed for DEI in just months. But that is a reflection for another day. The Soul Matters poem. The original poem, Where I'm From, starts, "I am from clothespins, from Clorox and carbon tetrachloride." The exercise is to make it your own. An example, "I am from bookshelves, from vinegar and green detergent." Here's my version. "I am from tea kettles, from soda bread and milky tea. I am from the enamel kitchen table with the painted scab my mother whacked with a hairbrush when mad at my dad. I am the furze bush, yellow and spiky and invasive in ditches and fields. I'm from family card games and silent suppers, from Mary Bridget Wiseman and Florence Crowley, from Do Your Own Thing and Don't Let the Neighbors Know You Think Like That. You have heard that a lot, haven't they? I'm from Holy Catholic Ireland, and the marble I choked on while practicing to swallow the wafer for First Communion, till my dad turned me upside down and shook it back out. I'm from Durris Court and Cullimon, from Irish stew and rhubarb jam. I'm from the Kilcrahan Road along the Wild Atlantic Way, past the red cliff with clouds moving across blue sky. That's the connection to the land that JD was talking about. From my father's near death by a tumbling castle wall, from my mother driving neighbors in the first hackney car in the village, to dances and to maternity wards. On the piano, photo portraits of overseas aunts and uncles. I am from stories of faraway relatives whose journeys and letters inspired us to set off on our own adventures. End of the reflection. Okay, let's take a breath, everybody. We have a hymn, I'm sorry.
You may rise and body your spirit for hymn number 1069, Ancient Mother. We'll do it 4 times, and Alan will play on the first time.
Okay.
Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient Mother, I taste your tears. And a little more, Ancient Mother, I hear your calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient Mother, I taste your tears. Ancient Mother, I hear your calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient Mother, I taste your tears.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Now is the time in our service we pass the plate for you to support the mission of this church and its staff and this building. A portion of your generosity will be shared with Off the Streets, who provide hope and dignity to those experiencing homelessness by helping them transition to permanent housing. You may now come forward. Thank you, Ellen and Craig. You may have come here today with a joy in your heart, a hope, a sorrow, a struggle. Now is the time for the sand garden ritual, where you choose a stone to represent your complex truth and place it in the community sand bowl just over where Margaret is standing. This is a silent reflection with Alan playing softly on piano. If you are new and wish to place a stone, just follow the others, come up the center aisle, and return by the side. You may now come forward. Margaret. And now if Margaret would please place a stone for all the unspoken joys and concerns among us. Thank you. Sorry, I surprised her with that. now for a moment of silence. If you could please place one hand on your heart and the other on top of it. And just take 3 breaths, one in and out. Another in and out. And the final in and out. And JD will lead us in a pastoral prayer.
Spirit of life, ancient and immediate, as we navigate through life's inevitable triumphs and challenges, let us be mindful that all of it happens in a long stream of ancestors and descendants. The world's unfolding is long and slow, even as our brief lives are essential to that unfolding. Help us to experience every turn fully, mindful that our joys and sorrows are both ephemeral and consequential to the river of time's ultimate course. Amen.
If you would now open your gray hymnals, please, and inside the front cover, we will say the affirmation of faith together, first in English and then in Spanish. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ofrenda. Este es nuestro gran pacto, el convivir unidos en paz, el buscar la verdad en amor, y ayudarnos unos a los otros. And after the service, we invite you to come downstairs for coffee, tea, conversation. You can reach it by elevator at the back here near the glass window, or follow the rest of the people just down the steps. And before I forget, today, for the postlude, we have some very special music, and we are inviting you to stay seated and silent while Marian Morgan sings to her a special Remember Me from Coco for us. She has been practicing. We want to hear this. Other announcements. The first one is a correction from the people on the Getting to Know You membership class. The announcement in the bottom of the 3rd page has an incorrect date on it. This has been changed from November 16 to November 2nd, and will be on the 2nd floor because there's another congregational meeting in Founders Hall. So that date is incorrect. It is now November 2nd, if you were planning on doing that. Also, on November 16, there will be a workshop here in the sanctuary from 1 to 3 p.m., and it's called Digital Security for Regular Folks. And as part of this workshop, you will be able to learn what to do about your digital afterlife. You will learn more about making secure passwords and what to do with regard to safety with all devices. And that is thanks to a grant from the Art and Selma Walters Trust. The presenter will be Jessie Purdy, and you will register by email, and more information will be coming soon. The next announcement I was given today at 11:30, there is an informal conversation downstairs with the Bylaws Committee. Our own Marian Smith will be there, and this is just questions and answers. It's something very informal, So if you have any questions about this, please show up so that Marian Smith will have some company. People were giving me all kinds of pieces at the last minute here. Volunteer news on the back here. This is important if you're in any committees or teams in this church. The volunteer coordinator needs your updates, and that is Karen Zipser, who is seated right in the back over there. If you don't know Karen, she just waved her hand. Please read that if you're on the committee and follow up with Karen with any changes. Did I forget anything anybody gave me? I think that is it. I've lost my sequence. Our closing song. Thank you, Eli.
So you may rise and body your spirit for hymn number 1051, We Are. Now this one's tricky. So we're going to sing the first two lines about 6 times, and then we're going to go. And for those who know this one, you're my anchors. I need you, right?
I have found it actually helps to sway with this one.
But I believe in you all, and I'll see you in choir on Thursday. You got this. Let's sing it a few times to get it in our ear. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe. Again, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe. One more time. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe. Here we go. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are our breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace. We're going back to the first page. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace, and they'll keep going. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe. Keep going. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe. 2 more times. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe. Last time. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
For those who came before us, we offer gratitude and thanks. May their memories be a blessing. May we feel surrounded by their love. As we go forth from this time and place, let us be inspired by their courage, their wisdom, and their dreams. Let us honor them by doing the work of living boldly, loving mightily, and creating heaven on earth. Amen, and blessed be. And I should have said all of that was by Leah Durland Jones. So, and a quick reminder to stay and listen to Marian's postlude from Coco. Amen.
Remember though I have to say goodbye, remember don't let it make you cry, for even if I'm far away, I hold you in my heart. I sing a secret song to you each night we are apart. Remember me, though I have to travel far. Remember me, each time you hear a sad guitar. Know that I'm with you the only way that I can be, until you're in my arms again.